Live from ABC News headquarters in New York City, it's Tuesday. Good morning, America.
Oh, boy, well, good morning, everybody. It is a busy Monday morning. We've got a beach warning with this stunning sight, fleet of stingrays crowding waters. Sam Champion standing by with the details behind the surge and the sting alert.
Also, take a look at this right now. You see what's happening there. A swarm of mass robbers going to a deli in Los Angeles. This is part of a growing trend, and we're going to tell you about it.
But we're going to begin with that extreme weather impacting several parts of the country, including flash flooding in West Virginia, triple-digit temperatures hitting much of the South. Going to be mighty busy here, Ginger.
Yes, and thankfully the flash flood threat has moved away from Indiana and West Virginia, but those areas are still seeing rivers rise, and it will take months for them to get back from the devastation that the flooding occurred. Overnight, storms illuminating the skies from North Carolina back to West Virginia. Radar estimates up to 9 inches of rain swamping Ripley, West Virginia, forcing schools to close and making roads impassable. This child's playhouse broken apart and floating in a backyard. In Charleston on Sunday, roads still filled with water. Authorities told people to move to higher ground. Sunday was their wettest August day on record. Homes filled with mud after the rushing water left communities devastated.
But it's totally destroyed.
The city of Carmel, Indiana, still reeling from flooding over the past week. Bridges destroyed and streets still underwater. Authorities warning that a major sewer line has a 90% chance of collapsing. Governor Mike Braun offering $5,000 emergency grants to people affected by the storms.
We're tracking your needs and we will get you resources. We want displaced Hoosiers to have a hot meal, comfortable bed, and get into air conditioning.
Today's flash flood threat goes from Chicago and Kankakee down to St. Louis, back to Kansas City, Omaha, and Des Moines. So a pretty big area that could see 1 to 2 inch per hour rainfall rates. Separate from that, there's a damaging wind and hail threat, and that goes from Kearney, Nebraska, right through Salina and Topeka, Kansas. Kansas City is also included. So through the afternoon and evening, you'll end up with storms that could easily take out trees and power lines. Then we have to talk about the heat, because this is so serious and it's been ongoing in a place like Oklahoma City for over a week now. We've seen extreme heat warnings, 107 the feels like today, Little Rock 111. Look at Jacksonville, Florida also, Charleston, South Carolina 115. This ridge, it's way up there in the atmosphere, right? It acts like a top on a pot. It's holding the heat in, and that's not going to end. Savannah, look at that, still into the 100 feels like into the weekend, George.
Boy, that is a lot of triple digits. Okay, Ginger, thanks very much. Latest now on President Trump lashing out at America's allies as the ceasefire agreement with Iran expires, sending oil and gas prices higher. Chief Washington correspondent John Carlos here with the story. Good morning, John.
Good morning, George. Unable to put an end to the Iran war, President Trump is now threatening to expand it, issuing a blunt and profane warning to a U.S. ally in the region.
With oil prices climbing higher and talks with Iran going nowhere, President Trump threatened to, quote, bomb the expletive out of U.S. ally Oman if they get in the way of his goals in the Strait of Hormuz.
I don't think they behave very well, but we'd handle them very easily, just like we do other things.
Oman and Iran are currently in talks about setting up a system of transit through the strait. One potential plan would allow both countries to charge a toll.
The war has reduced ship traffic in the strait to a standstill, rattling world markets and raising the price of gas. On average, Americans are paying over $4 a gallon, up over $1 since the war began.
The president insists that the U.S. has full control over the strategic waterway. He even suggests he may soon declare it a U.S. territory. But his own energy secretary says disruptions to ship traffic remain.
We're in a conflict zone right now.
This comes as U.S. military officials are scrambling to respond to a Trump Truth Social post condemning long-planned joint exercises with South Korea. In the post, which blindsided military leaders, Trump cited his, quote, very good relationship with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un and called the drills inappropriate and hostile towards North Korea, and said they would be substantially reduced. He also criticized South Korea for not joining the U.S.-led campaign against Iran.
How do you respond to folks who say that you are prioritizing the interests of adversaries in North Korea over our longtime partners by scaling back military exercises?
No, I'm making it much safer. You see, I'm actually making it much safer. Kim Jong-un has always treated me with great respect.
And this morning, Iran is saying yet again that the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed until the United States meets all of its conditions. Iran's parliamentary speaker saying the waterway will not be open until, look at this, George, frozen assets are released, the blockade is lifted, the oil embargo is lifted, threats and military operations cease, and other conditions.
Absolutely.
In other words,
stalemate
it's going
right
to be closed.
There. Yeah. Meantime, you mentioned the president lashing out at South Korea. He's continuing this courtship of Kim Jong-un. He had this other post yesterday on Truth Social. Look at that right there. He says, "Hey, Donald, be cool." Right, that's the second post like that over a series of 3 days, despite the fact that North Korea has a nuclear arsenal that could threaten the U.S. and our allies.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, he said that they've been in contact, unclear what that contact is, but it's worth remembering that Trump met with Kim Jong-un 3 times, including 2 summits, in terms of getting them to give up their nuclear weapons, a total failure. In fact, North Korea's nuclear arsenal is larger now than it has ever been, and they are suspected of helping the Iranians, not to mention the troops they're sending to fight in Ukraine for Vladimir Putin.
For Russia, right. John Carl, thanks very much. Michael?
All right. Thank you, George. Now to voters. They're going to the polls and primaries across the nation. Our Jay O'Brien is in Washington with details on the most closely watched races. Good morning, Jay.
Michael, good morning to you. Voters in 4 states going to the polls tonight, but all eyes on that critical Senate race in Alaska that could help decide who controls Congress. Democrats hoping former Congresswoman Mary Peltola can flip that seat blue. She's a moderate who recently rejected an endorsement from Vice President Kamala Harris. For Republicans, it's a tale of 2 Dan Sullivans. The state's sitting GOP Senator Dan S. Sullivan is facing a primary challenge from Dan J. Sullivan. Both could wind up on the ballot in November because of the way Alaska's primaries work. President Trump has blamed trickery, in his words, on the part of Democrats for that, but state Democrats and Dan J. Sullivan deny any connection. Michael.
And Jay, a big primary day in Florida as well.
That's right. From the frozen tundra in Alaska to the Sunshine State, where Florida Republican Congressman Corey Mills is facing multiple primary challengers in a district that Democrats are hoping to flip this November. Mills is under investigation by the Justice Department, sources tell ABC News, although it's unclear the exact nature of that investigation. The House Ethics Committee has also opened a probe for what it calls alleged, quote, sexual misconduct and or dating violence. Mills has denied any wrongdoing. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who's popular with state Republicans, saying plainly he doesn't support Mills. Also in Florida, 10 Republicans are vying to replace Congressman Byron Donalds, who's running for governor. On that ballot are 2 former congressmen who resigned in scandal, 3 candidates who previously ran for Congress in other states like Illinois and New York, and a pardoned January 6th rioter. Meantime, in California, there's a special election tonight to fill the seat of former Congressman Eric Swalwell, who resigned from Congress and ended his run for governor, remember, after accusations of sexual assault, which he denies. Michael.
All right, seems like an episode of Game of Thrones, Jay. Thank you very much. Robin?
All right, Michael, now to the cocaine trafficking case at Penn State. 14 people charged, most of them former or current students. 2 fraternities also allegedly involved. Matt Rivers here in the studio with the latest. Good morning to you, Matt.
Good morning, Robin. Of course, drugs like cocaine being sold on college campuses has happened for decades, but authorities say what makes all of this stand out is the size and the scale of this operation, just the latest in a string of controversies plaguing fraternities at the school. This morning, more than a dozen current and former Penn State University students arrested and charged, allegedly part of a cocaine ring based out of 2 off-campus frat houses.
There was nothing junior or childlike about this type of conduct. This was an upper-level trafficking organization for this region in Pennsylvania.
Officials say the group, led by former students Agostino Abatiello and Thomas Robinson, brought in kilos of cocaine at a time in 2023 and 2024, the pair making trips to Philadelphia and New York City to refill their supplies.
The evidence showed that cocaine was primarily packaged at the fraternity houses and that packaging was done by fraternity brothers and oftentimes pledges.
Abatiello, Robinson, and 3 others facing federal corrupt organizations and conspiracy charges, among others. 8 others facing misdemeanor charges. The parent of 1 student charged for allegedly interfering with the investigation. Penn State immediately suspending Delta Upsilon fraternity, but saying Sigma Chi operates independent of the university. The university says it's cooperating with law enforcement, telling ABC News criminal activity, including hazing such as this, has no place at our institution. Now, no comment yet from any of the accused, nearly all of whom have already been arraigned. Penn State's fraternities have faced a string of controversies in the last several decades, including the deaths of multiple pledges during hazing incidents and sexual exploitation of female students. George.
Okay, Matt, thanks. We're going to turn now to the CDC, saying that the rate of vaccine exceptions for American kindergartens has reached a record high as kids go back to school. Rhiannon Alley here with the details. Good morning.
Hey, good morning to you guys. Yes, a record number of kindergartners are starting school by skipping routine vaccines. So doctors are now sounding the alarm, saying these vaccines help protect not just kids, but the entire community. New CDC data shows vaccine exemptions climbed to 4.2% during the 2025-2026 school year. That is up from 3.6% the year before, and nearly double the 2.2% from just 5 years ago. So why aren't kids getting vaccinated? Well, the data shows most exemptions are actually non-medical reasons, such as religious exemptions. And it comes as the country is dealing with a record-breaking year for measles cases in the last 35 years. The CDC says the percentage of kindergartners getting the MMR vaccine, which protects against measles, mumps, and rubella, slipped to 92.4%. And that is below the 95% experts say is needed to maintain that herd immunity. So, guys, while the overall numbers are declining slowly, health officials say that even small dips increase risk of outbreaks as highly contagious diseases like measles continue to spread.
Of course, this is going on as President Trump and RFK Jr. are questioning the efficacy of vaccines.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, Rhiannon, thank you. Going to go now to a frightening day on the runway. Multiple planes blowing tires at one major airport in less than a week. Sam Champion has more on these scary incidents. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, Michael. And here's what we learned. It surprised me. Airline experts tell us that blowing tires during landing or takeoff is not uncommon. And the two most common reasons are heavy loads on those planes and the high speeds of them on runways. This morning, two rough landings at Chicago's O'Hare Airport, raising safety concerns.
American 360 requiring assistance. I heard he just blown a tire.
An American Airlines flight arriving from New York blowing two tires after landing. Fire trucks rushing to the disabled plane.
No injuries and no one's panicking.
Passengers, thankfully uninjured, bust to the terminal. Then, just 2 hours later, another scare. A United Airlines flight with over 120 passengers blew two of its tires on landing as well.
Just had another tire issue with an aircraft downfield.
The pilot immediately asking about the possibility of fire.
Do we see any kind of smoke or hotness or anything, any indications there of a potential fire? Negative at this time.
Again, thankfully, no injuries reported.
What's interesting here is that we had, of course, two different flights on the same day at the same airport blowing tires. Blown tires are not that unusual, especially when you consider how many flight operations there are, but it certainly is startling.
These incidents come less than a week after a United jet was forced to abort takeoff, slamming on its brakes after two main landing gear tires blew out.
We saw lots of chunks of tire going down the runway.
Passengers here forced to deplane on the runway. So you immediately think, is it the runway when you hear two together? The landings at Chicago O'Hare's airport were on different runways, and all three incidents are being investigated by the FAA.
Glad they're looking into it.
Yeah.
Good to have you back, Sam.
Thank you.
Now, the new details we're learning in the death of actress Hayden Panettiere. And this morning, what her longtime partner and the father of her daughter is now saying. Trevor Ault joins us with the latest. Good morning to you, Trevor.
Good morning, Robin. We know so many people were stunned to learn of Hayden Panettiere's passing. We do have some new updates from law enforcement in the investigation into her death, as heartbroken fans and former co-stars want to know how she died, but they are also remembering how she lived.
This morning, we're learning new details in the shocking death of star actress Hayden Panettiere.
Cardiac arrest, Justin Milwaukee, 701 Ainslie Ridge Road.
Audio captures first responders rushing to the apartment complex where the 36-year-old was found unresponsive Sunday.
CPR is in progress.
And there were a bunch of people in the halls, frantic, and I had heard something about a collapse.
On Monday, the coroner's office completed an autopsy saying the cause of death is still pending, but no signs of trauma were discovered that would have contributed to the death. And the Greenville Police Department says their preliminary investigation did not produce evidence of foul play or suspicious circumstance. Fans and neighbors gathering near the apartment where Hayden was staying, a growing memorial honoring the late actress. She grew up in front of the camera, appearing in Remember the Titans at just 10 years old.
Morning.
Where's your dad?
He's in his office.
And an ice princess alongside Michelle Trachtenberg, who passed away earlier this year.
It's your slot, Casey.
If I drop out, you're ranked next.
Panettiere leaves behind her 11-year-old daughter Kaya. Overnight, her ex-fiancé and the father of their child, Vladimir Klitschko, speaking out saying nothing will erase the times we shared or the place she had in our lives. To our daughter Kaya, I will always speak of her mother with respect and make sure she remembers the person she was. In Panettiere's memoir released just months ago, she was open about her struggles with severe postpartum depression and addiction, talking to our Stephanie Ramos in May.
It just started kind of spilling out of me, these stories, naturally as I went through this, and I realized how many people needed to hear it.
Now an outpouring of tributes in Hollywood, her Scream 4 co-star Neve Campbell saying, I found Hayden to be really kind and funny and brought a magnetic energy to set. She was a true talent, which shows in the decades she worked in such a short life. And Nashville co-star Connie Britton writing, this was Hayden, bursting with brilliance, shining so bright. I have no words for this sad song, just heartbreak. I love you, girl. Sleep easy now.
And we also received a statement from Hayden's personal representative and her friend Casey, who said Hayden was the fiercest warrior I've ever known, and we are united in celebrating her incredible kindness, her strength, and the beautiful person she was. Guys.
She was truly loved and admired. Yeah. All right, Trevor, thank you.